Here I am at a beach in Holguin, Cuba. Come join me. Now let's talk Cuba. Let's talk about the different things happening here that we might not know about from outside of the country. Now, I've been to Cuba 6 times so far, including this trip. It's not as many times as some other people out there, but I've been talking to the employees here, the guides, and this is what I found out. Now, the country has been struggling economically for a while now, for decades actually. And this was even before the lockdowns happened. I know. Nobody likes talking about the lockdowns, but it's important to the story. Now, in case you didn't know, the US put sanctions on the country decades ago, which affected its trades and thus the economy, right? Briefly though, the sanctions did start to get lifted, so there was a light at the end of the tunnel there. But soon after, the sanctions got put back on, and obviously that dampened a lot of things here. Now, a lot of the country's economy runs on tourism, so it banks on people like you and I to come here and spend our money, our hard-earned money here. And obviously when the lockdowns happened, tourism got affected. And because of that, there was no money coming in. A lot of the resorts struggled, some of them even shut down. And because of that, the locals here, especially the people who work at the resorts, they suffered a lot, and Lord only knows how they survived during those few years. Now, I asked an employee about what it was like during the lockdowns here, and he didn't really want to tell me anything, to be honest with you. I'm guessing it's because it was too painful for him. Now, I'm sure some of you know what it's like to have lost your job during the lockdowns, to have no income, or just being financially affected by them. And Lord only knows how these people survived here, because the effects of the lockdowns were amplified. But thankfully, the lockdowns ended eventually, and tourists started coming here again. And that's a great thing for the locals and for people like you and I looking to come here. Now, as you might know, due to the sanctions, the trades are affected. So they don't have a lot of proper trading channels, so they can't import a lot of things that you and I enjoy back home in a first world country. Certain toiletries are really hard to find for the locals, even if they have the money to buy it, because they just can't get a hold of it. There's no stock for it. Right now, there's a rapid expansion of resorts in Cuba. They're building a lot of resorts in the country. And as I said, there are 2 just being built right beside here. I mean, in Holguin, they're trying to turn it into a top 3 resort destination in the country. And I can definitely see that happening. I can see a lot of influx of tourists here in the future. Now, up until a few years ago, the average local didn't even have proper access to Wi-Fi, to the internet. And even if they could have access, they had to pay 1 CUC, that's Cuban convertible, per hour. And they had to go to like a public hotspot square, different places, I almost fell there, different places scattered where you could sit down, like a park, where you could sit down and you could access the internet. Over the past few years though, the government has been rapidly expanding their internet infrastructure throughout the country, especially for the resorts, so that people like you and I, who are used to having unlimited high-speed internet everywhere back home, can still feel at home here. But the Wi-Fi is still a hit or a miss. Even if the resort says that there's free Wi-Fi throughout the resort, that can be misleading, because personally, sometimes I don't get Wi-Fi in my room. But usually, rule of thumb is that the communal areas, so your lobbies, your restaurants, places like that, usually do have good Wi-Fi. You can watch videos on YouTube and things like that. Now, if you're self-employed like me and you can't take a break from work, it can be pretty tricky to access the internet at times. But usually I just take my laptop to the main lobby and the internet works fine. Ooh, I came pretty far, huh? I think it might be time to start heading back. Another thing I've noticed is that a lot of the locals have started getting smartphones over the past couple years, which is a great thing, right? Personally, I love coming to Cuba, so much so that I have a playlist called Cuba, and I listen to it whenever I'm here. The people here are so friendly, they're so welcoming, they're so accommodative of your needs, despite the fact that they just can't accommodate it because of the shortages. Now, this morning, the resort couldn't make any coffee because their water filtration system was on the fritz. And I need my coffee in the morning. And the employee there, the person at the bar, they were so apologetic. They said sorry like 5 times to me. So, you know, I mean, it's not a big deal. I'll just have coffee later. I'll just have something else. That's fine. But it just goes to show, you know, it's not their fault, but they're trying really hard to make sure that you're comfortable here. I'm walking through the resort and I get greeted by so many of the employees here. It's crazy, actually. I mean, it's such a stark contrast to North America life, you know. Nobody says hi to each other, especially in the cities, right? Here, it's just, you know, you're walking through and you'll get an hola from a lot of people. They even start talking to me in Spanish, thinking that I know how to speak Spanish, but, you know, little do they know, all I know is gracias, buenos dias, cerveza. That's practically the extent of my Spanish. There's a whole mañana approach to the life here, which can be a bit of a culture shock for a lot of the tourists. But the mañana approach is what I love about this place, because that's what truly is a vacation, in my opinion, because you catch a break from the hustle and bustle of first world countries, the stress, the anxiety, you know. The people here are genuinely nice to you here, you know, and it's not fake service nice, you know what I'm talking about. It's real nice, you know, it's real nice. Rarely did I find an employee with an attitude, but even then, I'm guessing they were just having a bad day, you know. And they're just humans, you know. The humans can have a bad day. They're not robots. And the beaches. I mean, the beaches are just wow. Like, I don't have to tell you that. They have to be up there on a global scale, for sure. It's also very safe here, you know, especially for women. It's very safe here. You know, you can just walk around and, you know, nothing's going to happen to you. Crime rate is pretty low. And you know, I leave my things in my room, and sure, I put them in the safe, especially my passport, things like that, in the safe for safekeeping. But you know, I haven't had so far. I've heard a few miscellaneous things going missing, but in terms of safety, your physical safety, you don't have to worry about that here. Now, the employees at the resort, you're not compelled to tip them, but it goes a long way. It's greatly appreciated by them. I mean, usually, you know, coins can be a bit of a hassle because when they put it into their account, they don't accept coins. So usually notes, bills are definitely better for them. Now, also another thing that has happened over the past year or so are fuel shortages. And that has affected a lot of things, you know, in terms of transportation, in terms of even things coming in. I was in Havana a couple of months ago, and the lineups for people waiting for the public transit, the public buses, were huge. They were massive because there just weren't enough buses running because of the shortages. But despite everything, you know, the people here are some of the most amazing people that I've met in the world. I like to think of them as organic humans, you know. The rest of us around the world are genetically modified, in my opinion. Anyways, I'm back at my resort, and that's pretty much all I had to say now. Thank you for joining me on this beach walk through Holguin, Cuba. See you in the next one.